to make a change. And we got to seize that opportunity. Now, I think that when you listen to the pundits and the commentators, most of them will tell you, you know, Obama, he's saying some interesting things. And he can give a pretty good speech.
Yeah.
And he's got enormous potential, but let's face it, he's only been on the national scene for a few years, and we need him to wait. We need him to hold on. And let me tell you something. It's true that I've only been in Washington for a little while, but I've been in Washington long enough to know it needs to change. And so the question then becomes, what's it going to take to change this country? You know, I wrote a book. I wrote a book called The Audacity of Hope. It was drawn from a speech that I gave, but actually, I'm here to confess to all of you, I actually stole the line from my pastor, Dr. Jeremiah Wright, who gave a sermon titled The Audacity of Hope. I was a young community organizer back in 1985-86, and I was working with a group of churches that were trying to do something about the devastation of steel plants that had closed all throughout the South Side. And the fact that I was working with a lot of churches led me to conclude that I probably need to start going to church. So one day I walk into Trinity United Church of Christ, and the title of that sermon on that day is The Audacity of Hope. And my pastor's premise is very simple. He says, listen, the easiest thing in the world is to be cynical. You look at the world as it is, with its poverty and its strife and its violence and its division, and the easiest thing is to say there's not much we can do to change it. And so we're better off just withdrawing from the public sphere and tending to our own lives and our own situation, looking after our family, protecting ourselves from whatever may come, but not to invest in really trying to do something to make this a more just and equal nation. But what he said was truly bold, what required risk. What was audacious was to recognize that although the world as it is may have its problems, that does not determine the world as it might be. And that what God wants us to do is to help close that gap. And we do it not just with words, but with deeds. And I love that idea. I love that idea in my own life, because what it told me was that I could be hopeful and optimistic, but not ignore problems. Rather, I would face them down. I would look at poverty, and I'd look at racism, and I'd look at sexism, and I'd look those things squarely in the face, but I wouldn't lose heart. I would say, we can change those things if, as a community, we come together and make a determination that we want to change. But what I also love about that idea was the fact that it describes the essence of the American experience. Because at